everyone. If you are in an area that gets snow, then wintertime is the perfect time to trim your trees. Just thought I should tell you. Plus, if you get tree work done in the off season, that's what most tree and landscape companies call it, you're going to get a better price. And you're going to get more prompt service because they're not as backed up as they were during the summer, you see. During the summer, a good tree and landscape company would be backed up 2 months. So, just went in and got my 7-Eleven coffee. Let's see. And I got a whole pocket full of Tylenol and mucus relief. And I'm going to make a right-hand turn on red. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this traffic light. So today we're going to talk about loneliness, okay? If you were to ask me what is the number one problem with the elderly and our senior citizens, I would say loneliness. All right, let me explain. By the time you're in your 60s and 70s, your children are already, most of them are in their late 30s or 40s. My children are in their late 40s, and I had them after I was 18 and after I was married, okay? So loneliness brings on stress. It brings on a myriad of problems. And by then your family's already got their family and they're already in the midst of, hecticness. And the reason why I know this is because I did the same thing, and I'm so sorry that I did. I was so wrapped up in my own life that I didn't visit my parents as often as I should. I should have visited them at least twice a month, and I lived sometimes a couple hours away. Sometimes I lived in Florida when they were in Virginia, but whatever. I wished I had visited them 100 times more than I did. Because I know there was many a day that my father sat at the kitchen table just staring at the smoke coming off his cigarettes. And my mother was trying to hold down the fort by being a 24-hour CNA for this elderly woman, so her life was not so great. But my mother always made the best of everything, which I think that's why me and my sisters and brother have such tenacity, or balls, or whatever you want to call it. So around the holidays, it was very sad in our house because my father would go hunting. That's what the guys called it back then. I thought it was an excuse to go get drunk and shoot guns. That's what I knew that even then. But come to find out, when I became an adult, I realized it had a lot of women in that picture, right? Yeah. Because my father never got vacations, and that was his time. And every time my father was getting ready to go out the door to go on his hunting trips, my mother would be screaming and crying because I don't remember my father ever being around when we opened our presents. I just don't remember that. So loneliness is the number one problem with the elderly and with the sick and with the feeble. And it brings on mental illness because you start overthinking. You start saying, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong when I was raising my children? Why is no one coming to visit me? So being lonely is a terrible thing if you've just lost your spouse. And my brother's going through a hell of a hard time. I'm just going to start crying. That's so... Can you imagine losing your spouse just a week or two before Christmas? Even on Christmas? So a lot of people's families are in the hospital with other operations or with COVID or who knows what. So everybody's going through something. This is why I did that Christmas wish. I wish even if you can't visit somebody, for God's sake, get on the phone and call. Call your cousins and your nieces and nephews and your great aunts and your great uncles. Let them know you're even thinking about them. Now, I'm on the way to see my son, which I haven't seen him since he left my house. I guess it was late July. And I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. And I have never done that. I have never given my son a piece of my mind. I think once I did. But let me tell you what, I'm going to tell him how much it hurts that he doesn't call or text me. I know he loves me. He loves me to death. But he's going through some stuff too. My daughter's going through stuff too. But let me tell you what I really resent. I resent people in my family thinking that my children are not good enough or that they don't love me. Because let me tell you what, with everything that my children have had to deal with in their lives, through their careers or whatever, I'm sure if there was some kind of test to see whose children could make it, like, if there was some kind of test, my children would come out on top, let me tell you. Because the secret to raising a good child is to have them well-rounded, not just good at one or two things in their life, but the fact that they're well-rounded. And my children are extremely well-rounded. I told them at a young age, I said, you better learn 3 occupations to get through this life. So, yeah, I'm sure it doesn't, you can't judge your children by how much money they make. That doesn't mean a damn thing. You can't judge them by how many degrees they have. No, that don't mean a damn thing. Some of the most stupidest people I know have college educations. But yeah, I would pit my children, grown children, against any of my family that they love me just as much. They may not show it because they're going through their own little thing. But see, my children, since I'm the oldest, my children are the oldest grandchildren, and they're already pushing 50. I'm almost pushing 70. So my children have already raised their children, you see what I mean. And so, but yeah, it gets very lonely for me, but I don't want to interfere in my children's life. I try to let them have breathing room. I don't want to be one of those suffocating parents. But I do, if I don't hear from them, they're going to hear from me. Yeah, I give it, a little bit of time, and then I will text them and call them. But it gets very lonely during the holidays. Now, thank God that I was with my brother's family, because he has a huge family, and they're all loving, and they all love me. And I had a little bit of spending money this year from this YouTube channel. Thank you very much, because I can't touch the money from my house from me selling my house. So you all have afforded me the ability I bought little gifts for my nieces and nephews, and I was on a budget, no more than $9 or $12. But I go to Costco, and those are the big deal, because you're really getting wholesale pretty much. But it is very hard when you're coming from a dysfunctional family and half the family don't talk to you. I have probably 1,000 cousins, about 1,000, and none of them call me. It's because my mother was pretty much the black sheep of the family, because she wasn't as fancy or hung up on having really nice things. She took her extra money and spent it on children that were extremely in a bad place, or very needy, or who didn't have a father to support them. That was my mother. I remember she had the same pair of pants she wore for 10 years until they had holes in them. I mean, my mother was not a clothes horse, nor was she into makeup, but she was into being there for her family. And but most of my aunts and uncles, they were into making money and spending it on fancy cars and houses and furniture. My mother never did that. She didn't have anything fancy. So, like I said, when my mother was in the nursing home, I tried to visit her at least twice a month, and definitely once a month, even though it was a 4-hour round trip ride for me. So, don't be part of the problem, people. Get in your car right now. Most of you aren't even working. Go visit somebody in a nursing home before they're in a funeral home. Because I know people who are just dying, the kind of people you never think would just pass, and they're passing, and it's a shock to the family when you say, well, I just saw her yesterday, or I just saw him yesterday. Yeah, I've lost both my parents, my sister, now my friend. I've lost, I think, 3 or 4 uncles in the last couple of years. These were my mother's brothers. So, yeah. Again, don't be part of the problem. Call people. Go visit them. If you got some extra gifts that you know you'll never use, put them in a basket or a bag and go give them to somebody, you know? All right. Bye, everyone.